Welcome back, YouTube, and today we're going to be talking all about your arena defense team. Now, arena is a very important aspect of the game because it will give you conquest points as well as glory crests, which you can use in the conquest point shop for Mulgora and gear and even unknown slates. And also because when you climb an arena, you actually start to generate sky stones every week. You get a weekly reward every week for the ranking you're in, and even for the first time climb, you'll actually get a ton of sky stones going up to rank 1. Now, this weekly reward is your main source of sky stones as a free-to-play player, so it's very important to actually be able to climb in arena. But most importantly, it's also very important to have a defense team that is constructed well enough to prevent your points from going down and for your demotions. Now, I would say I have pretty good experience in arena. The meta always changes for defense teams, but we're going to be talking about the current meta as of this video's release because it is one of the most ongoing metas. And as you guys can see, I did hit Legend 1 in arena. It's nothing too, fantastic of an achievement, but it is going to, in a way, kind of showcase that I have some idea about what I'm talking about, right? So, yeah, basically the biggest thing in arena is you don't really need to win a lot on your defense teams. Even like 20% win rate, 10% win rate is fine because of the fact that people will always have the ability to look at your team first and then strategize and even re-gear their units. You just want to deter people from attacking you. Now, the biggest thing you're going to notice when you're actually looking at the top players' arena defense teams is that they have a couple of things in common, actually. The first thing is the inability to get cleaved easily. Now, of course, you can actually cleave every single team if you have all the units built and you actually, plan for it. But you want to try to stop people from cleaving you and make it hard. You'll be able to edge out some wins that way. And the easiest way to do that is just having a lot of units with counterattacks, RNG, evasion, and so forth. While keeping that in mind though, you're going to see that unlike Guild Wars, because that there are 4 units on your arena defense team, you're going to have units with a lot of different roles. And I feel like there's 3 roles that you really want to fill on your arena defense team, and we'll actually talk about that. So the first thing you obviously need is a damage dealer. So we look at all of these number 1 players, mostly because they ended in Legend and went to 5200. You're going to see damage dealers are going to be in every single one. So for the first team, just for example, we have Luna. Second team, we have ML Landy. This team, we have Bellion, most likely on a damage build here. And then we have the 4th team here. We have Abyssal Euphine with Ikarina, who can also act as a damage dealer. We have ML Shu, Abyssal Euphine again, and Bellion. So you kind of get what I'm saying. You always need damage. Otherwise, you're not going to really be able to kill anything, and people will eventually wear you down with like injuries, and you're not going to really be able to, win your defense games too easily. Another thing you're going to notice is that there are going to be multiple sources of AntiCleave. So for AntiCleave, let's go down the list again. Actually, let's go to opponents here. You can see there's a ton more different units that are being used. You have like Destina, very good against Cleave. The first team, all these units are very good against Cleave because they have high mitigation, they are tanky, and Savior Aiden is going to have that evasion, and if she evades, very, very powerful. She can still get countered by like Briar Witch, Saria, and like Zahak and things that avoid evasion, but in general, you just want to cover as many bases as you can than rather trying to cover all your bases, right? That's the key to success in arena. Second team here, you have Spirit Eye Celine good against Cleave, Yulha who will mitigate, and then Rwana. So you kind of get what I'm saying. You want to really be able to actually go against Cleave while being able to deal damage with your defense teams. So basically the roles that I'm going to recommend you actually fit into your defense team is a damage dealer, preferably with some counters and RNG to combat Cleave. A good example is like Mercedes. You can use like Shu. Savior Aiden is probably the most popular and strongest one right now. Because she has that evasion, she has sustain, and she has invincibility and a ton of damage, and she's just really good against dark units. And yeah, you just need some sorts of damage so you can actually combat the enemy side and actually kill them, while hopefully having that damage dealer be able to deal with Cleave. Another very premium unit is going to also be Navy Captain Landy. You can also always use other units, right? Lionheart Sermia, you can see like Rimuru sometimes, you'll see like Apoc Ravis, but for the most part, I think the ones I listed prior are going to be your best options if you have those units built. The second thing you really need is you need an anti-cleaver. So I've been saying you need like anti-cleave in general, but you really want one unit that is going to be built or focused on anti-cleaving. So for the first team here, Ikarina, pretty much an anti-cleave unit. Even with Savior Aiden, who's a good anti-cleave unit, she can get cleaved by like Briar, which is Saria, and like Zahak. But Ikarina kind of stops that. She's just extremely powerful with her S2 and her S3, being able to one-shot a ton of units. Another example in the second team here is going to be like Bellion. Very, very powerful against cleave. Angel of Light, very, very good against cleave because of her passive and also her silence and her unbuffable. You also have units like Ocean Breeze Luca can work very well, even Rowana, Senya, even Destina, right? There's a ton of options. You just want to definitely make sure that you have at least one source of anti-cleave. That's what I recommend. Like APOC Ravi is very good. There's a ton of options. Just make sure you have one unit that is designated to shut down cleave. The next thing I'll recommend is a Mitigation Knight. So Mitigation Knight, not every team will have it. You can see like this team here is just speed. I don't really recommend this because it's very hard to actually pull this off on defense teams. But I recommend just running a standard team with a Mitigation Knight. Now the best Knight, in my opinion, for this in arena defense is going to be none other than Specialty Change Airwell, because she has Escort. She also has a huge barrier. She also gets pushed a lot and she can strip buffs, which is very annoying, even not in RTA, like even in AI combat, it's super annoying. And also because she has Escort, so you can actually hold her on or put her on an artifact known as Adamant Shield, which you should be running her on for the most part on most teams. This will basically reduce damage even further, which is very, very strong. So it makes her the best mitigating knight in the game, and all she really needs is bulk, and she's good to go. So it makes her very easy to build as well. There's other good options. You'll see a lot of them actually used. You can use like an LRK. He's also probably the second best, if not tied for the best with Arrowell. You'll see like Krauls, you'll see Yulhas. You can even put your Bellion on your Aureus if you want. You can even use like Pillis if you really need. Just any knight that can hold Aureus, has Escort, or holds Adamant Shield. Like even Crimson Armin is a very good option as well, even if you're looking for a more free-to-play option. And Venturos can fit the bill. Just need something that can lessen the damage taken by your team so they don't get one-shot by cleave units as well. Basically, everything I listed is going to be helping against cleave, and those are the 3 slots you really want to focus on. So what about the last slot? So after the damage dealer, anti-cleave unit, and mitigation knight, the last slot is really up to you. You can pretty much slot in another anti-cleave unit if you're losing to cleave, or another damage dealer, or another like bulky bruiser. Mostly, you're going to want to look at the teams you're losing to in your battle log. If you're seeing that you're losing very often to certain teams, you're going to want to actually change your team and put another unit in for your flex slot to combat that. So, for example, I'm looking at a team with Abyssal Euphine, looking at a team with ML Kens and like Lethes. So there's a lot of counterattacks for the Abyssal Euphine teams. Maybe I can run like a Lionheart Sirmia or something like that, so I can deal with the counters, or even like Rowana or something like that. You can see I'm getting Dark Corvus here. I can run a unit such as like ML Shu or Alencia, something with injury to stop that, right? There's so many options. The last slot is really up to you. If you guys are wondering what my team is currently, I have SERL as my mitigation knight, my anti-cleave is AOL, and my Navy Captain Landy is my damage dealer, who's also very good at anti-cleave. And then I also have my Karina here, who can work as a damage dealer and anti-cleaver, and has some mitigation with her S2 barrier as well. My entire team is very tanky. They all support each other, right? Arrowell has a barrier for her team, AOL has that skill nully, and Navy Captain Landy obviously has that anti-crit passive as well as the buff for her team. So they all buff each other, they all do a ton of AoE damage, and they all just synergize very well. So this is a good example of a pretty decent team that I would recommend for players who are trying to push for higher ranks, because this team is very, very stable. But yeah, not everyone will have access to the units I have, because a lot of them are MLs. One of them is an ML 5-star, so it's going to be hard to reach for newer players. So if that's the case, you can run a team something like that's similar to something like this. So basically, I have a mitigation knight in Aros. Like I mentioned, he's very good. I have a damage dealer that's good against cleave because of her counter and Mercedes, and also Savior Aiden. And then I also have a healer. Oh, where did my Savior Aiden go? I also have a healer that can actually deal with cleave and also sustain the team as well in Destina. So there's a lot of options you can use instead of the units that I just mentioned in my team. But it's really up to you and what your account has. Now, if you don't have like your Savior Aiden yet because you didn't beat Zio, or you don't have a Destina, you can put in another Soul Weaver, even like an Angelica or Angelic Montmorency, if they're geared well enough, can be fine as well in the earlier ranks. And for DPS, you can just slot in like any unit that you have that is decently tanky or has evasion. Like Green Violet can work. You can use like a Senya, you can use like a Shu, you can use something like a Rem if you actually have her as well. It's not bad. It's really up to you and what units you have available. Another good core to build around would be like these 3 units. So Destina is available from story summons. Airwell is available. Eventually you'll get her because she's an ML3 star, although she is technically a little bit more rarer. And also you have Safer Aiden, which is from just beating the story. So if you build your core team around these 3 units, your defense team will be pretty solid and will be able to stabilize your defense enough where you'll be able to climb as long as you spend enough flags without even needing to even use Skystones. For the 4th slot, it's really up to what you have. I would recommend like an Angel of Light would be probably very, very powerful here. If you want more damage because you're seeing that your damage is not high enough to kill things, Navy Captain Landy can work. If you have her, obviously. You can also use a unit such as like Mercedes. You can use like Rimuru. You can use just pretty much anything. It's really up to what units you have available on your account. Even like a Landy on Guiding Light can work as well against some teams. Really up to you and what you have. And you're building your defense team as long as you have this checklist filled out where you're not being cleaved and you have damage and you have some mitigation. You should be good to go as long as you're actively checking your battle log and seeing what you're losing to. I hope this video helped you guys out, guys, and good luck climbing an arena. It's very important to do, especially the earlier you do it, the better, because yeah, you're just going to generate a ton of Skystones that way, and it's a very good way to start being able to pull on those banners more frequently, because as you know, there's a ton of banners being run back to back to back, which I've talked about in another video, which is kind of draining everyone's Skystones. So you definitely want to make sure you're climbing an arena and even trying to get to Legend 1, or at least like as high as you can for the first time promotion rewards, because you get a ton of Skystones from here as well. Hope this video helped you guys out, guys, and I'll see you guys next video.